In fact, it is the body that you are, and it is the body that you are conscious of being, and it is the body that is conscious of being you. Consider that for a moment. There is one aspect of our discussion of the body of living flesh that we must clearly understand. When we speak of this eternal, perfect, everlasting body of flesh, we're not referring to a supposedly born body comprised of dense, solid matter. Now remember, there aren't two bodies. I go back to this all the time because we must not be confused about the fact that there is one body only. There are not two bodies, and we're not going to get confused about that. There is no such body as a supposedly born body of matter. Now that which appears to be a material body is only a misconception, a misrepresentation of the genuine, the only body. This imperishable, indestructible body consists entirely of consciousness, intelligence, life, love. Now I know this is repetitious, but those of us who have come along this way know that it is necessary to return again and again and again and again to certain considerations, truly, in order to realize that we are the constant realization, comprehension, and being of this truth. Yes, this body that really is the one only body truly is visible. Now we can joyously say, I consist of eternal, birthless, deathless life. Right now I am conscious of seeing, and I am conscious of being this indestructible, imperishable body of ever-perfect living flesh. I am perfect vision, seeing perfectly. I am conscious perfection, seeing and being perfection. Only the immutable perfection that is visible. And I am the perfect vision which sees this visible perfection. All of this and only this am I, for I am that I am. Now, as we've stated before, this universe is the sum total of every truth. It is necessary sometimes to go back and establish our basic fact here. It exists, this universe, as everything that is true, everything that is a fact. Everything that is true or a fact exists and is equally present and equally true everywhere. Now, every truth, as we've said so many times, is a universal truth. Now, that means that every truth is present everywhere. Well, it's an omnipresent fact. It's present everywhere and equally everywhere. There is not even a pinpoint in the entire universe where every truth, or the sum total of all truth, does not exist, and where it is not known to be present. Any aspect of existence has to exist everywhere in order to exist at all. And unless an aspect of existence is equally present everywhere, it could have no existence at all anywhere, don't you see? Because there's no separation at all. There's no more, no less, anywhere. Now, suppose there were such a thing as evil. Well, unless suppositional evil existed equally everywhere, It could not exist at all anywhere, unless supposed imperfection exists equally everywhere. It does not exist anywhere. Now often we'll hear someone say, "Oh, I know that I am part of God." Well, this statement simply is not true. It is not a statement of truth, no matter how sincere it may be. But it is not a statement of truth. It's not a statement of fact. God does not exist as separate, isolated, unequal parts of itself or himself. No, God exists equally, inseparably, as all that God is, everywhere. The everywhere. The totality, that is God, exists totally everywhere. Thus, there are no unequal, separate parts or aspects of God, the infinite, boundless, all. If one seems to be ill or in trouble, it may appear to him that he is a separate, isolated identity with a specific problem that is strictly his trouble or his illness. And that, beloved, seems to be entering a great deal with those of us who seem to have what we call bodily problems particularly. We just hug it to us as though we were some separate one, and this is our pain or our disorder or whatever, as though we were a separate one who could be in pain when the whole universe and everyone in it and everything in it was not also in pain. If there's pain, it's everywhere, don't you see? If there's disorder, well, this is the disorderly universe. So, now, suppose it appears to someone that he is the victim of heart trouble, for instance. Now, this assumption would have to do with the activity that was apparently imperfect, the activity of a heart, we'll say. Now, perfect activity is a universal truth. Perfect activity is indivisible. No way to divide activity. Can't divide God in action. Perfect activity is indivisible. It is present, and it is equally present constantly everywhere. Thus, there can be no separate, isolated activity. Neither can there be a separate man who is only a part of this ever-present, equally present, universal activity, which is God in action. Therefore, because the universal, omnipresent, perfect activity is equally present everywhere, there simply cannot be imperfect activity anywhere. Not a pinpoint of it. There is no imperfect activity of anyone or anything. It is all omnipresent activity. Equally present God, being totally, completely, actively all. The perfect bodily activity does go on, regardless of this seeming imperfect activity. But if there were imperfect activity, it would have to be equally present as all the activity of this entire universe. Well, look what would happen then. The planets would be bumping into each other and things would be chaos. Furthermore, all activity would be present equally everywhere. Furthermore, all imperfect activity, I should say, would be present equally everywhere. Now, such a thing could be the activity that is our entire universe in ceaseless action would all be imperfect activity. If this could be true, the universe would be in complete chaos. Indeed, there would be no universe at all, because aeons ago it would have perished, it would have destroyed itself. But we know that the only activity that is present as this omni-active universe is eternally constant, perfect activity. And it is true that there is no separate, isolated activity. The bodily activity is the universal activity focalized, and it has to be as perfect as is the universal activity, because it is the entire universe itself in action. There simply is no isolated, separate bodily activity, because there is no isolated, separate body. Today we seem to be hearing much about infection. Oh my, they're making a big thing of that. Well, unless infection exists equally as every nucleus, every atom, every cell, it does not exist anywhere. It never has existed, nor can it ever exist. There could not be one iota of infection anywhere unless this were a totally infected universe, don't you see? By this token, unless this is a completely imperfect universe, there is no imperfection of any kind or of any nature. You know, of course, that if we had a totally imperfect or infected universe, we'd have to have a God that was an infected God. Then God would have to be the infection and the one that was infected. Isn't that ridiculous? Most important of all, however, is the fact that the mind, the intelligence, that knows itself to be all there is equally present, constantly, eternally, infinitely, everywhere. Because it is the everywhere, of course. Therefore, unless a mind or intelligence that knows itself to be imperfect is equally present everywhere, there is no intelligence that knows itself to be imperfect anywhere. Now, unless every atom, all the substance that is the boundless universe is ill, diseased, and so forth, there is not one iota of sick, imperfect, disease, substance, or activity anywhere. Now, that's something to consider. Now, unless the body of every star and planet is ill, or imperfect, or functioning imperfectly, there is no ill or imperfect body anywhere. Not one body, not one cell, not one so-called organ can be sick or imperfect. Unless this is completely imperfect, the universe itself, there cannot be one iota of imperfection. Unless deterioration, decay, and the like is going on equally everywhere, in and as this whole universe, there is no deterioration or decay going on anywhere, in or as this universe. Unless this universe is aging or aged, there is no old age anywhere, in or as this universe. Unless this entire universe is constantly being born and then dying, and being born over and then dying again, unless this whole universe is constantly being incarnated and reincarnated, well, there is no reincarnation. So, that just crept in here for a minute. Because I feel that that's rather an important subject, you know. Oh, yes. We could go on indefinitely in this vein, but enough is now revealed to enable us to see, to perceive the inseparable, equal presence that is the body, that is God, really. And to see that God is inseparably, wholly, totally, everywhere, right now. It is imperative that I tell you that I have seen and known many wonderful things to take place through the perception of this revelation that we have just been considering just now. God, the universe, is a living, breathing, intelligent being. Now this is truth. But you see, this means that this universe itself is a living, intelligent, breathing existence. So, now the universe really is mind or intelligence. It is an intelligent, active substance. Now the universe really is conscious. That's something to realize. But it's true. This is a conscious universe. It is consciousness, and consciousness has to be conscious. So this universe is consciousness, being conscious. The universe, God, really is alive. Now this is a living universe. It is life itself. And life has to be alive. It can't be anything but alive. Well, this universe is life itself being alive. Now this universe really is love. It is love itself. And love has to love. In order to be love, love has to love. It cannot help but love. So, this universe is love itself being loving. This universe is a living, moving, intelligent, conscious substance. And this moving, breathing, conscious, intelligent, loving substance is God, God, God. Truly it is wonderful to realize this. The irrevocable fact, beloved, reveals why it is that God really is our life, our mind, intelligence, our consciousness, and the love that we are. You see, the foregoing, just before we began this last statement, reveals the reason why we cannot be unless it is God being all there is of our entirety. God is the substance. God is the activity. Thus we are and have to be the substance that is God in action. God, the boundless universal life, lives, is alive by being the life that we are. Thus, the life that we are is necessary in order that God be complete life or completely alive. Just think what a stupendous thing this is. Imagine. Yes, the life that is alive, as everyone and everything, is necessary in order that the infinite life that is God be infinitely, completely alive as itself. Isn't that an awesome thing to realize? And isn't it a glorious thing to realize? No wonder we have such great respect and reverence for life itself. Even the air itself is a living, breathing, intelligent, conscious, loving substance that consists of something they call atoms, as we said before, or structural atoms. God is life, being alive, consciousness being conscious, mind being intelligent, and love being loving. And this being is the being that you are, that I am, that everyone and everything is. And this fact reveals just why you really are God, and there's nothing sacrilegious about this. Of course we love God. You know what I mean. You see, there is nothing else or other that we can be but God, because only because God is can we possibly be at all. I live, yet not I. It is God who is alive as the life that I am. I am conscious, yet not I. It is God who is conscious as the consciousness that I am. I am intelligent, yet not I. It is God who is intelligent as the intelligence that I am. I love, yet not I. It is God who loves as the love that I am. I breathe, yet not I. It is God who breathes as the very breathing that I am. I walk, I talk, yet not I. It is God who walks and God who speaks as the I that I am. I act, I move, yet not I. It is God who acts. It is God who moves as the I that I am. I hear, yet not I. It is God who hears as the hearing that I am. I see, yet not I. It is God who sees as the vision that I am. I know, yet not I. It is God who knows as the intelligence that I am. I am, yet not I. It is God who is as the I that I am. And beloved, these truths reveal the I am that you are. Yes, the I that you are, that I am, that everyone truly is. I, being alive, am simply the infinite life, God being alive. I, being intelligent, am only the mind that is infinitude being intelligent. I, being conscious, am but the infinite, omnipresent consciousness being conscious. I, being loving, am just the boundless, infinite, impersonal love, loving. I, being perfect, am but the perfection that is God, being perfect. I, being immutable, imperishable, indestructible, am only the immutability, the imperishability, the indestructibility that is God, being immutable, imperishable, indestructible. I, being beautiful, am but the beauty that is God, being beautiful. I, being whole, I, being complete, am only the wholeness, the completeness that is God, being whole, complete, total, entire. Well, beloved, this fact is why I of myself can know nothing. I of myself can do nothing. I of myself can have nothing. I of myself can be nothing, because I of myself, other than God, am nothing. We have a poem that came through here as this class that we gave, and it is titled The Only I. So let's experience this poem at the moment. If I be not the love that is, I am but naught, for love is all that doth exist. 'Tis love not sought, just seeing, knowing, being love. I am none else, inseparably one. Oh, 'tis enough, all darkness melts, as surging, flowing, flaming light is known to be the omni-love, beyond all blight, infinity. Yes, it is all God, being God, but it is God, love, light, all, being all there is of the I that I am, that you are, that everyone and everything is. It is only in this awareness that I can even whisper, I am that I am. What an awesome statement. And how satisfying. The infinite, living, moving, breathing, intelligent consciousness that I am, right here, right now, is boundless, omni-active, omnipresence itself. And there is no other presence. This living, moving, breathing consciousness that I am right here is everywhere, constantly, eternally. This is true because I am unconfined, I am inseparable, I am whole, all entirety. This specific vocalization of the I that I am is the presence that I am everywhere, constantly, eternally. Thus the living, moving, breathing consciousness that I am is the universal omnipresence that I am right here and right now. This is completeness, beloved. This is wholeness, totality, entirety, allness, being all. Now, just as God is the same everywhere, constantly, eternally, so it is that I am the same everywhere, constantly, eternally. Thus, it is not a separate I that is consciousness alive here. Rather, it is the ever-enduring, living being, being the I that I am. There is no way in which I can be a separate being, because there is no way in which God could separate itself without destroying itself. As you can see, separation in the final analysis would be disintegration, and to disintegrate would be to be destroyed. Now, God can't. God does not exist as separate bits and parts of the indivisible, integral, all that God is. It just couldn't be that God could be a self-destructive God. God is the one, integral, whole, wholeness, completeness. Hence, it is not a separate I that is alive here. It is the ever-enduring, living, conscious being, being the living consciousness that I am, that you are, that everyone is. Now we know that there is nothing other than God, infinity right here. There is no one but God alive here or anywhere. There is no one other than God, infinity, breathing here. No one breathes but God, you know. There is no one but God acting here. There is no other one than God, infinity, conscious of being here. There is no one but God seeing at all here. There is none other than God being seen here. There is no other than God hearing. There is none other than God being heard here. There is no one but God loving here. And then there is none other than God experiencing here. There is no one other than God existing right here and right now. As we know, the only substance in form here, called body, is the infinite substance, God. The only body that exists has to be ever perfect, ever enduring, immutable, eternal substance in and as form. This indestructible, imperishable, ever enduring substance can never become imperfect, can never change, can never age, can never disintegrate, can never die, can never disappear. Well, the only power there is omnipotence. The only intelligence there is right here is God, the mind that knows no trouble, no sickness, no lack, and no pain. The only consciousness that is consciousness here is God. Beloved, this is you. God, conscious of being, is the only consciousness that is conscious here. And this God consciousness cannot be aware of a problem of any nature. The I am God is the only I here. The I am God is the only I that I am, that you are. Otherwise, there could be no I. There could be no identity existing here. The I am God is the only I that is conscious of being here. If this were not true, there could be no I, no identity conscious of being here, don't you see? The I am God has to be the only I that is aware of anything or of being anything at all. It is only because this is true that any identity can be aware of being or of existing as anything or anyone at all. Beloved, the I am conscious life knows no death. The I am consciousness cannot be aware of unconsciousness. The I am mind, intelligence, knows nothing of ignorance or absence of self-knowledge. The I am love that you are knows nothing of separated personal love or of hatred. The I am perfection that you are knows nothing of imperfection. The I am harmony that you are knows nothing of ignorance, of inharmony, of problems, sickness, worry, or anything that seems to be the inharmonious in any way. The I am I that you are, here and now, knows only the completeness, the inseparable, integral entirety that I, that you, eternally, constantly are. The I am integral identity, conscious of being the I that I am and that you are, knows nothing of separate persons or personalities. The I am God that I am knows no fear. The I am God that I am knows nothing to fear. The I am consciousness that I am has no awareness of a suppositional human past in which there seem to be mistakes, weaknesses, selfishness, ambition, pride, or any of the supposed human frailties. In short, the I am God that I am, here, now, is the only I am that you are. And this is the I am that we have ever been, that we shall ever be, for we are one. What can the God that I am know of birth? Nothing. What can the eternal God that I am know of death? Nothing. Always I have been. Forever I shall be. Do I have any awareness of having been born? Do you have any awareness of having been born? No, not at all. It is just as impossible for the I that I am to be aware of death as it is impossible for this I that I am to be aware of birth or of having been born. I only know that I am, beloved. You only know that you are. It's the same I. What can the God I that I am know of being born a mortal or a human being? Can God know himself, itself, to be born as a mortal human being, a temporary? Oh no, this can't be. What can the God know, the God that you are know, of being born into a mortal temporary body? Nothing. I am only aware of being the God I am, identity, eternality, being. What can the God that I am know that God does not know and know itself to be? Nothing, nothing at all. Does God, the eternal I that I am, know aught of birth and death, beginning and ending? No. Does the God I that I am, that you are, eternal life, know aught of a temporary life? No. Is not the God I am that you are eternal life, the only substance? Yes. This being true, is it possible that I could ever be aware of a temporary substance? Could you be aware of a temporary substance? No, not at all. Since God, the God I am, is the only substance, can there be a substance that changes, that deteriorates, that becomes diseased, ill, or imperfect? No, not at all. The I am God substance constantly, eternally remains immutable, whole, sound, complete, indestructible, imperishable, perfect, everlastingly. And beloved, this is the substance that you are. This is the substance that I am. Is not the God I am light? Yes, of course. In and as this I am God light, is there any darkness at all? No. Is the I am God light conscious of solidity, of weight, of heaviness, of awkwardness, or density? No, this can't be. Can the I am God, purity, know aught of impurity? Well, the Bible clearly states that God is of purer eyes than to behold evil. Well, if there were such a thing as impurity, would this not be evil? Yes, of course. Can the God I am purity be aware of poison or infection? Can the God I am purity, that you are, that I am, know aught of a substance that is or can be infected? No. Can the God I am completeness know aught of being incomplete? No. Can the God I am mind, supreme all intelligence, know aught of being incomplete knowledge? We know better than that. Can the God I am peace know aught of troubles? No. Can the God I am tranquility know anything at all of being disturbed or distressed? Not at all. Can the God I am infinite order be aware of disorder? Can the God I am infinite supply be aware of lack or limitation? No, no, no. Can the God I am heaven itself be aware of being or of being in hell? No. The God I am heaven itself can only be aware of being heaven. Now, no one named Marie, John, Mary, or whatever can ever say, I am God, if there were such ones as persons like that. Only God can say, I am God. No, I suppose the born mortal could say, I am God. Well, that would be sacrilegious, if it could be, really. That would be ridiculous, inanity. No, only conscious immortality can say, I am God. Infinite conscious intelligence make a mistake. The following statements are terse and succinct, but they will bear much contemplation. There are no mistakes. there only seems to be deviation from the truth. Truth is immutable, invariable. It is only the observation of truth that seems to be variable. Now that which appears to be the magnitude of a mistake or error depends upon the difference between the changeless truth and the rightness or correctness of our observation of this truth. Thus, error is not really a mistake. It only seems to be a deviation, a false or incomplete way of seeing or perceiving any truth. Right here, it is necessary for us to realize that the consciousness that is the truth is also conscious intelligence that observes or perceives this truth. Therefore, beloved one, there will be no more of this fallacy of trying to reason or to figure out how or what to do in any situation. You will know, and know that you know immediately when it is necessary for you to know. And always you will realize that perception of any truth is a manifestation of this truth. In contemplation now for a moment, I, consciousness, need nothing in order to be aware of what I am, all that I am, and only that which I am. I, mind, intelligence, need nothing in order to know what I am, thus to be that which I know. I, life, need nothing in order to be alive, as the eternal constant life that I am. I, love, need nothing in order to be the ever-enduring, living, intelligent, conscious love that I am. Whatever substance is here this moment is only that which I am conscious of being. This is true because I, consciousness, am the only substance that is present as my entire being. Whatever is active right here and now is the living, conscious intelligence that I am. This living, intelligent consciousness is always, constantly, in perfect, orderly, controlled action right here and right now. I am omniactive, conscious, intelligent consciousness in ceaseless, living, intelligent action. How can I be other than God, since God is all there is to be? How can I be separate from God when God is all there is of me? Often, someone will ask, well, just how do I contemplate? To contemplate is to consider. And this means to consider things as they really are and not as we wish them to be or hope they will be or become. It is no effort to consider the heavens. We read that in the Bible. Consider the heavens, the work of his hands, you remember? This considering requires no thinking, requires no reasoning. Now, when we consider the works of his hands, we do not have any objective. We're not trying to prove anything. We're not hoping for an improvement of any so-called condition or situation. We're simply considering the infinite, eternal perfection that is right here and right now, constantly. Often we seem to fall back upon the metaphysical habit of doing mental work. It appears that this old habit is very subtle and deceptive too. Then too, for some of us who are engrossed in the metaphysical atmosphere and activity, this habit of mental work appears to have become very deeply ingrained. Even though we know better, really, when we become aware that we are the absolute truth, even though we do know better, and that the absolute truth needs no mental work in order that it be evidenced, it does seem, regardless, that we often unwittingly revert to the former habit of working mentally, and sometimes that which is called meditation leads us right into this mental effort. This is the trap. This subtle deception is why I prefer the word contemplation. Now, when we are contemplating the absolute perfection that is, we're not seeking to change this perfection. Who can change God? There is simply a positive, absolute, effortless conviction that perfection already is, right here, right now, infinitely, constantly, eternally. We do not contemplate for the fulfillment of any purpose. We are fully aware that every purpose is already eternally and constantly fulfilled, and our only necessity is to be aware of this absolute truth. You know, it sometimes seems that we're trying to make an adjustment between the divine and the so-called human, between God and assumptive man. Yet the Bible states that we are to keep the mind stayed on God. It is impossible to make any adjustment between God and man. And when we are completely aware of the fact that we, our infinite, boundless God identity, are all there is to contemplate, we realize that there really is nothing but God to consider. And we certainly do not seek to change or to improve God, who actually is our infinite and only being. Now, sometimes we wonder why the evidence of our seeing is not instantaneous. How can this evidence be instantaneous if we're always expecting it to become evident? The evidence already is, and our only necessity is to be constantly aware of this fact. The evidence already is. Beloved, this ultimate awareness is an eternal constant. It's an infinite constant, too. Now, the following statement is of tremendous importance. That which we are contemplating or considering is the evidence itself, and we, in contemplation, are the evidence that we seem to be seeking to see or to experience. In short, we are the evidence of the truth that God is all is God. It is impossible for us to be separated from the evidence of absolute perfection. This is true because we are absolute perfection evidenced or manifested. It is not as though God and man could coexist. God, being, is man. Thus, man is God, being. Thus, man, being evident, is God manifesting himself or itself, if you prefer, as just exactly what God is and nothing else or other. Now, beloved, how far removed from the evidence of perfection are we? Oh, it is all in the Bible. It always is. As we continue along this spiritual way, many statements from this Bible will be evidenced, and we will perceive that we are the evidence of that which we seem to have been seeking. In the Bible we read, "Ye are the temple of the living God." Yes, oh yes. The temple is the focalization of those who are aware of being the very presence of the life that is God. The temple that you are is the focalization, the evidence of the I, that is the infinite I, or identity. That is your God identity, or the God I am being. Oh yes, the God I am being is your God identity. And we read this glorious statement in Romans 8, the 16th and 17th verses. "The Spirit itself beareth witness," and in parenthesis is the evidence, "with our spirit, that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ." Now, we may ask how it is that to bear witness is to be the evidence that we are really heirs of God and joint heirs of Christ. Well, to witness anything is to be that which we witness. To see or to perceive anything is to be that which we perceive or see. To be that which we perceive or see is to be the evidence of that which we perceive. Thus, our very awareness or perception, for instance, that God is the Christ and the Christ is man, means that we are the evidence of that which we perceive. Now, as you continue to consider the truths you're hearing, the absolute truth revealed here will be ever more clear, more powerful, in and as the consciousness that you are. But right here, a fact must be stated that may, to some of you, seem startling or even absurd. But please bear with these statements for a little while, and you will discover how it is, you will discover why it is, that they are statements of absolute truth. The spirit and the flesh are the same thing. If we are able to be, and we are of course, the visible evidence of the truth we perceive, it is necessary for us to know and to understand the foregoing important statement. So let me state it again. The spirit and the flesh are the same thing. Well, spirit is substance. Substance is consciousness. Consciousness perceives. This consciousness is aware of being that which it perceives. That which I see, I am. Job said, "In my flesh shall I see God." Imagine that. And in John, the 1st chapter, the 14th verse, we read, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us." Well, neither Jesus nor Job were speaking of a body that was invisible. Could Jesus so beautifully have fulfilled his purpose in being if he had not dwelt among us as a visible body that appeared to be flesh? No, no. We simply have to stop this thing of falsely believing that our imperfect way of seeing the body is the body itself. The temple of God, which you are, is the eternal body of the everlasting flesh. And when you truly see this body, you really know that this body is visible. It is the visible, eternal, indestructible, perfect body comprised of spirit, consciousness, God, that we actually see. We call it a body of flesh, bones, so forth. But those are only names that are given to our mistaken concepts about this body that really is. Remember, we've said that consciousness is substance. Of course, we have to realize that the body of the living truth is not a solid body of matter at all. You know, there is no solid body of matter. That's all there is to it. There just is not. Even a physicist will tell you that. Let us not be deceived. That which is called a temporary body of matter is not substance. It is not form, and it is not active. It is only our imperfect way of seeing the eternal body of the ever-living flesh. But we are not compelled to see the body imperfectly. What makes us see it imperfectly? Nothing compels us to see it this imperfect way. At any moment, our vision may completely be just completely clear. Our eyes may be opened, and we may realize that we can and do see, thus be, this everlasting body of the ever-living flesh. And we shall perceive that this body consists of life. It's a body of light. It consists of light, and light is life, as we're told in the first chapter of John. But this body does consist of life, of light, of consciousness, substance, mind, intelligence, love, which is complete harmony, and indivisible oneness. So, you see, spirit and flesh are one and the same thing. This body of the ever-living flesh that is evidenced is the Christ body, or the body of the Christ. Please do not imagine for one moment that the body of flesh is a born body of matter. There is no such thing as a born body of matter. We cannot stress that too much. That which is said to be matter is only a mistaken way of seeing and experiencing the substance that is consciousness, spirit, life, love itself. Do you wonder why I keep returning again and again to the subject of the body? Well, there are two reasons why I feel impelled to again and again refer to this subject of body. First of all, it seems that this is my particular fulfillment of purpose at the moment. To many of us, it appears that nuclear warfare threatens to destroy every body, even the body of everything upon this planet Earth. Now, during our contemplation of the body, it is merely consideration of the body of man is a consideration of one specific body, that's all. But we also must consider the body of the tree, of the bird, of the cat, of the dog, well, of anything and everything that exists as form. Now, it also refers to the body of every blade of grass, every animal, every insect that inhabits and comprises this earth planet. We're not just confining our consideration to the body of man, you see. Oh, it is essential that all of us be completely aware of the genuine nature of the substance and activity and form that comprises body. It is interesting to note, and the physicists now know, particularly the astrophysicists now know, that even the air consists of bodies, really. They say that the air, the atmosphere, is comprised of atomic structures. Well, a structure is form. I've said this before, but it is a good thing to reconsider it at the moment. So we do not really see with what appear to be but are not born eyes, we do not really see all that exists as form, substance and form here at all. Now, let us diverge for just a moment in order that the full scope of the power of your contemplation may be realized. Many students of the ultimate know that the consciousness we are in contemplation is boundless and unlimited in its scope. Now we have absolute proof that our revelations are perceived by those who are full open consciousness anywhere in the world or in our own beloved America. The aspect of being called body is of such great importance right now that it would not be love in action if you would contemplate the subject of the body in the awareness of the fact that your revelations can be revealed as the consciousness of anyone, anywhere, and then you would apparently leave everything and everyone out, you see. It wouldn't be loving to do this, aside from just the consideration of this body that is right here, right now. This would not be love, but it is love to contemplate just what the body is as the substance of all form, as the substance of every form in existence. And as we've said so many, many times, all substance is form. Just realize that your revelations going on right here are going on everywhere throughout this world. Just imagine. Everyone. Well, I guess I better not go into that right now. Anyway, anyone who seems to be afraid may suddenly perceive the indestructible, imperishable, eternal nature of the body of the ever-living flesh. I feel that I have to say this. I started to say it a moment ago, but I was speaking about your contemplation being realized by anyone throughout the entire world who was full open consciousness. And then I paused a moment, if you remember, but I didn't conclude by stating what was revealing itself. So this would not be complete unless I did this very thing right this moment. You see, it is not only the body of anyone called man throughout the world who would realize and does realize his revelations by our contemplation or through our contemplation of absolute truth, but even the flowers, the grass, the birds, any so-called animal or whatever, is capable of being, all of these are capable of being, a full open consciousness and of really knowing, being aware of just what we are aware of in our full open contemplation. Now, this is no idle, just philosophic meandering. These are things that have been proved, and they are revealed in some of the other classes, have been revealed, and are revealed, I believe, on some of the previous tapes that we've had. There's been proof of this. So, well, if this were not true, how could anyone, for instance, call for help, which occasionally happens, where flowers seem to be deteriorating or not doing too well, or animals, or birds, or whatever, don't you see? It's the same consciousness. We just have to have a greater, more complete awareness of the allness, the wholeness, the entirety, the indivisibility of this consciousness. But to continue, there are two aspects of that which we shall perceive and consider pertaining to the so-called threat of nuclear warfare. First, we must know just what constitutes the substance, the form, and the activity of every body, all substance and form, and everything. We must understand why every body is indestructible, but, above all, we must perceive just why it remains forever intact as the visible evidence that is body. It is the seeming failure or inability to know and to understand just what the body is that appears to cause us to see it imperfectly. You know, it is as though a distorted image of this ever alive body of flesh superimposes itself over the eternal, perfect body that does exist. But this superimposition is not the body. But as the so-called little I is transcended, this fallacious superimposition, it's just simply dissolved, it just is dissipated, and we really see the ever-living, everlasting body of flesh. So, it is only a suppositional, little false I, or identity, that apparently does not see the body as it is. But this supposed little born I does disappear as we are more and more aware of being the I am identity, that I am, which we genuinely are already. And it is this eternal I that I am that does see the eternal body of man, capital M, and the eternal body of everything. Now let us perceive why it is that no nuclear attack can possibly destroy this body, or any body for that matter. We have said that the body consists of consciousness, life, mind, love, and this is absolutely true. And even if there were such a thing as a destructive nuclear bomb or an atom that could be destructive, it could not destroy consciousness, it could not destroy life, intelligence, or love. Now, we are referring to the body of the living flesh. For conscious, living intelligence is the body of the ever-living flesh. Beloved, this is the body of light we're talking about. And there is nothing that can destroy living, loving, intelligent life. It has been believed that consciousness is invisible. Well, it's been believed that spirit is invisible too. But too many people, too many of us, have seen the spiritual body, the body of light, to be deceived about this. Anyway, this mistaken view has been held pertaining to life, to mind, to love. But this simply is not true. All life can be seen. Whenever you see light, you're seeing life itself. For the life is the light, as John says. Now, the substance that is life, intelligence, consciousness, love, is visible. And it is visible right here as the substance and form that is this body. This is a body of flesh. This is the body that Job mentioned when he said, "In my flesh shall I see God." And when John stated that the Word became flesh, and I insert here a moment, visible as flesh, John was speaking of the visible body that is indestructible, eternal, imperishable. Actually, this body of the living flesh has always been visible, and throughout the ages there have been those who have seen it as it is. Today, more and more of us are seeing this eternal body of ever-living flesh, and one day we are all going to see it. We're all going to have to see it. And we know that it is the genuine and only body. Now, since many of you can and do see this everlasting body, is it not possible for anyone to see this eternal body? Can any one of us say, well, I am a chosen one, I can see it, but no one else can? We can't do that. Are not all of us one indivisible consciousness? Are not all of us equally this consciousness? Of course we are. And who or what can limit God? Now, there is a second and exceedingly important aspect of this so-called threat of nuclear warfare that must be considered. Namely, it is the substance and activity of the atom itself. Now, beloved, there is just one substance. And this being true, the atom has to be, in order to be anything at all, in order to be an atom, if such there is, the atom has to be this one indivisible substance. Thus, the atom is not and cannot be an instrument of destruction to itself. Now, this is important. You see, intelligence is always in full and complete operation, and self-destruction could never be intelligence in action. I'm going to make this statement again pertaining to the atom. The atom is not and cannot be an instrument of destruction to itself. Living conscious intelligence would never be self-destructive. And above all, love. This is the important thing. Love, the indivisible oneness of all substance, could never be made into an instrument of destruction. Love is the very essence, even as love is the very substance of our being. Love is the activity of the atom, if such there be. But despite all appearance to the contrary, love is the very intelligence of those who imagine that an atom can be destructive. There is one more truth to be considered pertaining to the atom. An atom consists of the very same substance which comprises our body. This intelligent substance, consciousness, could not possibly be a destructive element to itself. Well, such a thing is utterly and completely inconceivable. The eternal body that consists of mind, intelligence, consciousness, love, eternal life, really is visible, and there is nothing that can make this everlasting perfect body of the living flesh be or become invisible. What then if some so-called mad man were to push the button, as they say, that would supposedly release destruction to everybody? Could this everlasting body, consisting of conscious, loving, living intelligence, be invaded? Could this body of ever-living, eternal, constant flesh become invisible? No. You know better than that. But there is one thing, and one thing only, that can seem to disappear. Of course, even this cannot really disappear, because that which does not exist cannot be destroyed. Therefore, it can't be put out of existence. If it's nothing, it's nothing. Anyway, what is it then that can apparently disappear? Beloved, it is our mistaken, wholly fallacious way of seeing things. Yes, it is our imperfect, incomplete way of seeing that infinite, eternal, perfect substance, which is all there is to be seen. This is the only thing that can even seem to disappear. But this apparent, incomplete, mistaken way of seeing the perfection that is the only presence does disappear in the presence of the genuine and only substance, consciousness, that does exist. This absolute truth can be found throughout our Bible. For instance, let us consider the following statement. Here we have in the Bible, "For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I speak in part, but then I shall know, even as I am known." Now you'll find this in 1 Corinthians 13th chapter, the 9th, 10th, and 12th verses. Yes, it does appear that now we only partially know or see all that we are, all that exists. But when absolute perfection, eternal, glorious, constant life or light is known, we shall know, we shall be consciously aware of all that we are, totally and completely. It does seem that our incomplete comprehension distorts our perception, and we supposedly see through a glass darkly. But you know, it only appears that we see and experience a distorted image or picture of all substance and form. But when we really see, really experience God, when we truly perceive God, who is, of course, absolute perfection, we really see God face to face, we shall see all that God is, all that is, and we shall see it as it is. And oh, what a glorious experience this is. And when it becomes a virtually constant experience, well, no way to describe it. We shall realize that we are seeing ourselves as God sees us. This is exactly what it means when it says we shall see as we are seen. We shall know as we are known, you see. Yes, we shall perceive the absolute fact that we see as we are seen. Thus we are the one, inseparable, infinite I, seeing, perceiving, and being itself. God knowing and being itself is the only self there is. And this is the self that we are, that you are, that I am, that everyone truly is. Now let us ask, what is the purpose in this perception? It is essential that we realize right here and now that we are truly the consciousness that is aware of and really sees perfection perfectly. We are the consciousness of perfection, being the perfection that is all. We are the consciousness that does see the visible eternal body of perfect, ever-living flesh. You see, we can't go on seeming to admit to being incomplete consciousness or seeing incompletely. We have to really stand up here and, in slang terminology, be counted. We have to face the fact and consider the fact that we are complete consciousness, so that even this seeming incomplete awareness is not the I am that we are. We need not wait to see and to be what we are and all that we are. This is something that does not require a nuclear explosion in order that it become true and visible. Rather, beloved, this is the way it is now. Some of us see all substance in form, and of course all substance is in form, as it genuinely is. Some of us constantly see all substance as it is, and all of us actually do know the genuine and only nature of the things that are. No, this is absolutely true, even though we may not seem to realize the fact that our perception, our knowledge, is complete. Oh yes, we too are the all-knowing mind, and our knowledge is complete, right here and right now. Well, before the conclusion of this tape, we will further consider the necessity of seeing absolute perfection, and that there is nothing existing that is not absolute conscious perfection, being constantly perfect. Beloved, make no mistake about it. We are speaking of the eternal perfect body of the ever-living flesh that is your body right here, right now. And you want to know something? Your body knows this to be true.
This is the end of Side 1. Please turn the cassette over for Side 2.
I hope you enjoy this spiritual audio. Like, share and subscribe for more.